On today's show, Kevin Love's time in Cleveland is at an end. We're going to talk about it, the fallout, what it means for him, what it means for the team on this new episode of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
All right, the music you heard on the way in is from our friends at Astro Radio. Check them out on Apple Music or Spotify. Today's episode, by the way, is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official sportsbook partner of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. I'm Chris Manning. That's Evan Dammarell. Big news today in the Cavs world is that Kevin Love and his time in Cleveland has come to an end. First reported by Shams and Jason Lloyd at The Athletic. Chris Fedor's had this as well, many others. Kevin Love is going to agree to a contract buyout with the Cavs as we are recording this. That has not officially happened yet, but it is going to happen. It would take something, I think, highly unlikely for that to change paths at this point. Kevin Love will hit the free agent market. The Heat have been reported as an interested party. I think there are other places that make sense. We'll talk about where we maybe would like to see him go, just as fans of his game. But he will have to March 1st to sign with the team and be playoff eligible. Evan, your initial reaction, though, what is your initial reaction to Kevin Love and his time in Cleveland being at an end and it ending in this way?
I was surprised, I'll be honest with you. Kobe Altman really seemed to shut down the notion of buying out Kevin Love's contract when the trade deadline came to a close, and just because Love is no longer in the rotation. I think part of it is the thumb injury, but the other part of it is just Dean Wade is more so in the future plans than Kevin Love is at this point. So you probably want to get Dean Wade more comfortable. But Matt Moore, friend of the program, kind of put it out in the ether after the Kevin Durant trade that he could be a buyout candidate and linked the Lakers to him in that regard. And I mean, we'll see where it goes. Like you said, we'll talk about where we'd like to see him end up, or maybe some fun spots to see him end up, because there's a lot of teams that Kevin Love could be fun on if he is just fully healthy. But I'm a little sad just as a fan of covering this team. I mean, let's be frank, everyone who covers this team in some capacity is a fan of what they do and what they're about. But Kevin Love was a catalyst to that 2016 championship squad, and also just the team that made the NBA Finals 4 years in a row. Sure, he was the butt of every joke, and he was kind of the fall guy for everything, but he was there for the franchise's highest point and the absolute highest point, the championship, and he saw some of the lowest points in recent years, like the John Boehline era and just everything that happened after LeBron left. And it's just kind of odd, I think, just to see this chapter of Cavaliers history finally come to a close. Like, this was the last connective piece to the 2016 championship squad. And it's going to be weird for a while just because, you know, he was a presence in the locker room. He is a guy that a lot of guys gravitated to on this team. And it's going to be odd. It's always weird to see people in different uniforms, whether it's LeBron at the Lakers or Kyrie with the Celtics, Nets, now Mavericks. And now it's going to be Kevin Love with possibly the Miami Heat or a new team. So it's going to be weird. I think it's going to be a bit of an adjustment. But also, if you're the Cavs, you do have to move on at some point. And it's kind of like ripping off a Band-Aid. And Kevin Love's management probably approached the Cavs front office and was ready to rip that sucker clean off and just move on.
Yeah, I think this is unexpected for the same reason you just in the sense that Kobe Altman was on the record saying as much like, hey, like, you know, this is not something that we think is going to happen. This is not something we haven't had that conversation yet. What I think isn't surprising, though, is that I think the through line of all of this was that it was clear that I think Kevin did want to play, that Kevin did want an opportunity to go out on his shield, so to speak, and get minutes. And I think the thumb injury ultimately put him on this path. I think that thumb injury that saw him really decline, saw him be in a slump for a month, and he just never really looked right after that thumb. Maybe, and he, you know, like JB Bickerstaff said, it was okay, and then he kind of goes out of his way to tell Chris Fedor that, like, you know, it is bothering me and it is a thing. Then Dean Wade comes back, And Dean Wade is not the shooter Kevin Love is, but what Dean Wade does provide is more attacking off the dribble. He's a better defender. You can use he provides you more things. He takes less off the table.
And he's also part of the future plans for this team. Like the Cavs signed him to an extension for a reason.
Right. So Kevin is in this spot where I think he did ultimately get to a place where he was happier here than he was a couple of years ago. But he still wants to go out and play and get a chance for minutes. And maybe that would have happened at some point. Maybe there would have been a playoff moment or a game down the stretch where Bickerstaff goes back to him. But like maybe, maybe the signal is that like he didn't really believe that was possible, and we'll see where he goes. But I think it is surprising in the sense that we're like a week removed from that being sort of shot down as a path for Kevin Love. As much as it was reported out there, they went out of the way to shoot it down. That is surprising. And I also think in some ways it is fitting that this is how it ends. I think Kevin Love being the guy who obviously stuck around for a long time, all of that stuff, for it to end in sort of an odd way feels right. It didn't end cleanly with him like going on a free agency and giving a great Instagram post and all of that and signing with like a different contender. It was like, hey, like it's a buyout. I'm going to get out of here now. And like you could theoretically, if he goes to Miami or he goes to Milwaukee, or like you could see him in the playoffs if you're Cleveland, which is like a weird little wrinkle to this. Like the fact that this doesn't feel like the cleanest break in the world does feel right.
I agree with you, and I think we'll cross the playoff bridge when we come to it in regards to the actual season, but it is something to think about because there are probably a few Eastern Conference teams that are lining up just to say, like, okay, we have the luxury of letting Kevin Love get fully healthy. Maybe he is fully healthy. Like, he's gone extensively through shooting drills at practice whenever the media is able to kind of just partake in what the Cavs are up to when things wrap up, but I think just like you said, the Cavs couldn't really give him an opportunity to play any consistent minutes in this rotation. Like first, Kevin Love had to swallow the pill, and rightfully so, of Evan Mobley starting in front of him and becoming the team's sixth man. And then the team kind of phased him out, I think because of the thumb injury, obviously, but like with Dean Wade coming back, it was an opportunity to see what you can get from Dean Wade, or maybe Jetty Osman or Karis LeVert, who Kobe Altman expressed sentiments of wanting to keep long-term as well. So I understand the logistics of it. I agree with you. It's a little odd. Just like the whole situation has just felt a little off to me. I do wonder if they weren't telling us more than they were leading on just because of like thumb injury, or maybe there's something else just happening in house, but who knows? Like I said, it's kind of sad just because the 2016 championship team really like was a catalyst for me to start covering this team as well. I think that second LeBron era is a lot for a lot of people too, just in terms of Cavs coverage or just being a fan of this team in general. And it's weird. It's like Tristan Thompson going to the Celtics, or like Channing Frye retiring with the Cavs, or even LeBron leaving and then Kobe Altman blowing up the entire Mamma Jamma when the team just signed Kevin Love to that mammoth extension to begin with. It's just weird to think about because it just doesn't feel like that long ago, but it was 5 years ago at this point when he signed that extension, and I'm much older and much grayer, and so is Kevin Love, and I don't blame him. Like, if you still have the desire to play, if you still have that fire within you and you want to or if you want to make contributions to a winning team, or believe you can make contributions to a winning team, and there's a clear path to you playing, yeah, rock on. You might have to bite the bullet and sacrifice some cash for it, but if that's your drive and that's your motivating factor, I think that's kind of worth the price. Especially, I mean, I'm not going to count people's pocketbooks, but like Kevin Love is pretty well off financially. I think he can afford to not. I believe he has like $8.8 million left on his contract at this point. Like, I think he can afford to shed off a couple, $2-3 million just to get out of Cleveland quietly and go sign with a different team.
The last thing to say, I think, about the surprise factor of this, and we're going to next week in the All-Star break, do a whole Kevin Love best moments episode. So this isn't going to be the last time we talk about this. Kevin Love's Cleveland legacy is bulletproof.
It's titanium. I called it titanium.
Kevin Love won a title.
Mm-hmm.
He overcame, I think, some things that were sort of self-inflicted and some attitude stuff that was his. He came back from a point where it felt very attainable. I think it is pretty clear that he has had an impact with mental health in the community and kind of raising advocacy in that way, and that is highly, highly important.
Mm-hmm.
And he's part of that 2016 team. He has a moment of that 2016 team, and he is forever in the city. There's a quote that Jason Lloyd's column about this, where he talked about like wanting to come back and referencing guys like Nance and and other guys that have come back, like Larry Nance Sr. and other guys that have come back, and he wants to be part of that group. If he wants to be, he's going to be in that group. There's nothing anyone can say, I think, that can take away from the Kevin Love Cleveland legacy. He's a champion. He's a winner.
Yep.
This goes out interestingly. I can't wait to hear what he has to say whenever he speaks again for the first time, but curious. All right, let's end there on that part of it. We're going to go into what this means for the Cavs and how they kind of move forward from here. We gotta go into an ad break first. Evan, today's episode is brought to you by a new sponsor for Locked On. That's Nissan.
I drive a Nissan.
Wow. Look,
Wow.
we're going to give out a player of the week for Nissan. And Evan, I think I'm going to nominate Donovan Mitchell for this because Donovan Mitchell has just consistently put up big game after big game after big game. He has looked electric as of late. He has been powerful. He has been everything you could want out of a star player. And dating since that groin injury has looked good of late. So for me, it's Donovan Mitchell as the player of the week.
I agree with you. Donovan Mitchell, like you said, has been electric. He's been brilliantly fierce. He's been fiercely elegant, and he's elegantly powerful. And it's so funny that Donovan Mitchell's playstyle is similar to the Nissan Aria, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, look, the 2023 Nissan Aria packs pin you to your seat, power and premium intelligence all in one EV. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Aria, the EV for people who love to drive. You can shop now at nissanusa.com. Excited to have Nissan in with us. All right, back here, Locked On Cavs. Chris Manning and Evan Dammarell. Evan, I ask you the question.
The Aria is a sharp car. Hold on. It's a sharp car. Dang.
Ad read's over, Evan.
I know, but continue.
Okay. What does this mean for the Cavs? What does Kevin Love not being on this team anymore mean from a Cavs perspective? Right in the moment, right now. Not like any emotional stuff, just what does it mean in a basketball sense?
In a basketball sense, you look at how Joel Embiid kind of bullied Jared Allen and Evan Mobley last night, and you wonder, like, hey, Robin Lopez and Kevin Love are there. They could be some bodies to throw at bigger guys, whether it's Embiid or even Giannis or heck, even Bam Adebayo with the Miami Heat. Like, the Cavs had a functional plan to deal with Adebayo, but like the playoffs are a different beast. So I understand the questions and reservations, just especially because Dean Wade is starting to fade a little bit offensively. I think physically he's still not quite 100%. So we'll see how he looks post All-Star break. But that's just kind of where I'm looking at it here, just on the court. And then obviously off the court, like, he's an emotional leader, but like, we won't get into the nitty gritty of it. But like, I do wonder, does Cleveland believe their culture is too strong to crumble just because they have like a key veteran in the locker room who's been there for the longest time, you know, kind of understands what it's like to play for JB Bickerstaff and also maybe like be a Cavalier, quote unquote. And I wonder if maybe losing that has an impact. But well, again, we'll see how this goes post deadline. But at least for now, like, it's just a little head scratching. You wonder what the Cavs are going to do with now this open roster spot they have with Kevin Love getting a buyout, and they kind of address the need to get a bigger body to kind of handle the Embiids and the Giannis's of the world and Bam Adebayos and Nick Claxton. Let's include Nick Claxton in this conversation too, just in case they draw the Nets in the first round. Like, there's a fair conversation to say, like, maybe the Cavs should have, I don't know. It's interesting to think about. What are your initial like team reactions?
I don't necessarily even think they like to go out and like add anything else here. I think what I think of is just like my first thought was like, okay, what do the players think about this? What are the players like gonna say about it as we go forward here? What are the different guys in the locker room gonna just say in terms of him talking about it and their thoughts on it and just how they feel like it will affect them? I don't think the Kevin Love was like the guy like holding that culture together, but I think he's been a positive contributor to it. I think if you asked anyone that, they would tell you that. I think I had a little like of a very like cynical thought of like, okay, like, did they miss an opportunity to maybe flip his money into something else? And maybe there's just not a deal out there that could have been done if you kind of maybe thought it was headed this way. That I wonder, this is where like my brain went more than anything.
Question.
This
like
is where my brain went more than anywhere else, Evan. It's like, did something change in the last week since the deadline? Was there converse?
I don't think
but like,
so.
we don't,
Yeah,
but I'm saying we don't
the deadline,
know.
yes. Maybe they did. Or maybe when they benched him, the conversation changed a little bit.
Well, the benching happens like, he hasn't played since January 24th. So you had a couple weeks before the deadline. And the way that Altman phrased everything was very like definitive. So I've wondered if like there's a conversation that changed, if there's back channel, like whatever it is. I wonder if just something has changed between now and the deadline. And I think you'll miss him in the locker room. I think you'll miss the option to have that kind of, to have him on the floor and be that kind of shooter that you like. But like at the same time, the Kevin Love that has existed since that thumb injury and really for the last like month that he played was not the Kevin Love that was like really good to start the year and that was in the 6th man of the year conversation last year. That Kevin Love wasn't existing. And if like you weren't going to get that guy back, then like, I don't know. I don't really know like from a basketball sense what you're missing in the short term right now if Love was not going to be that version of himself. Like his story of reinventing himself was awesome. But if that level of play, that drop off was like just somewhat of a normal now, then and you felt that way for Cleveland, then I'm a little like I'm not. Basically, I don't think this changes if I think they're going to get into the second round or not, or have a chance of making the conference finals. But like, does it suck in some ways? Yes, it does.
So let's wind this all the way back to when he had that 6th man of the year campaign and he reinvented himself, as you said. Do you wonder if it's like a little bit of it like a dead cat bounce and he just had like a bounce back season just because he was locked in, motivated, healthy, available, everything that positive you could say about him? And like, do you think the Cavs kind of missed an opportunity maybe to capitalize on trading him or maybe flipping him for contracts or assets or something like that, just to make things a little bit more fluid, a little more viable? Because you and I had talked about this at the beginning of the season, or at least our preview, like heading into the season, like there's a very real possibility that Kevin Love does not have the same season he had. One, because he's injury prone, and two, like it was a little surprising how well he gelled coming off the bench, especially just considering like the calf injury and every like pre-existing factor against him. So I think that's a thought that kind of crept into my head as you brought that up. And I think that is a fair question asked to, like, why didn't the Cavs try to maybe like move him? Like a hypothetical of like Doug McDermott and Josh.
We don't know that they didn't, and we don't know what other teams' like willingness to take on that salary is. This is just like pure like speculation about like maybe what happened.
This is 100% speculation, and we don't know what the Cavs did. I don't think anybody really knows. The conversation will be maybe if there's like a feature or something like that down the line of like the actual fallout and what happened. And I don't know if fallout's the right term, but it makes it feel like it's toxic. Like this was a bit of an amicable breakup where Kevin Love had a hard conversation with JB Bickerstaff just about how like they're kind of focusing on the future and they're going to like sit him. And he was disappointed, but understood, at least according to Bickerstaff. And it's not like when Kevin Love left Minnesota, like where the house was on fire when he walked out, because the then Timberwolves owner, I believe, I forget his name, but either way, like had nothing but bad things to say about Kevin Love on his way out of Minnesota.
Glenn Taylor.
Glenn Taylor, that's it. And it's not like this is a bad breakup. It's just the reality of the situation. Like Dean Wade in the Cavs' eyes at the time, or maybe LeVert, Osman, Okoro, even Ricky Rubio, like they had to crunch in minutes for him and like let him be the 6th man for this team alongside LeVert. Like there's a lot of factors at play, and I think also Love getting hurt. Like if he didn't get hurt, because he was not great, but he was solid enough coming off the bench for Cleveland, but he's a traffic cone on defense at the end of the day. You watch teams kind of exploit that, especially when Bickerstaff had to put Kevin Love at the 5. And when his shot wasn't falling, like what is he giving you out there? Like some rebounding and some passing? Like, that's not enough if you're asking him to play 25, 30 minutes a night some nights. And sure, there were moments where like he has like a turn back the clock game or something crazy like that, or he like has a bunch of franchise accolades that he kind of kept climbing with the list on this year. But like you said, I just don't think in the grand scheme of things like a ton was lost, especially I know this is a little bit of recency bias that the Cavs were on like a 7-game winning streak before they lost to Philly on Wednesday night. Like they were just fine without Kevin Love out there, and they have figured out a lot of things without him out there. So on the court, it's going to seemingly be pretty functional, and we'll see what they do with that roster spot. So
nothing changes. Nothing changes. Unless like Nerlens Noel just like gets like I don't even know if there's like a center out there that I'm just like, yeah, I could see. I don't really know what the name out there. It's
Serge Ibaka or Noah Vonleh.
That I don't know if that's changing.
As like emergency depth as an slight upgrade over Robin Lopez.
I don't think either of those guys are upgrades over Rolo to defend a 280-pound center.
Okay, that's a fair argument. There's also just like the conversation of like they could go get like Stanley Johnson is ineligible to sign with the Lakers because of the terminology of how the Lakers handled him this last offseason. Like they could go get another wing player too and just like add like another guy that could soak up some minutes and probably eats in the Jetty Osmond's minutes even more. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
at least
there's options out there.
Yeah, Danny Green's probably eating in those as well, but then like maybe like
they just convert Mamadi Diakite's contract and let him be that body, and they sign Sharif to the new 2-way deal because Cooper's been balling for the charge and might as well reward him a little bit for it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they make any move. We'll see if they do. Maybe there's a little more line under the luxury tax now as well, I would imagine. We'll see what the buyout ultimately looks like. There'll be some money stuff to dive into as well. All right, let's go into one more break, come back, and we'll talk about Kevin Love. And we're going to just say, okay, where could he go? What does he have to maybe offer some of these teams? And as we kind of see what could come next for him. But first, got to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Look, if you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. We're just getting through the holidays and Valentine's Day. And look, I know the goal is to eat healthier this year for a lot of you, including myself, but you don't want to compromise on taste. So try a Built Bar. They're so delicious, you won't even think they're good for you. That's perfect for those New Year's resolutions. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they are covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter, brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like candy bars while maintaining amazing macros. What's even better is they are healthy, only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't even need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. I can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. At Walmart, you can get a 4-box of cookies and cream, double chocolate or coconut puffs. And if you're near a Sam's Club, run in and get a 13-bar box with the hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. Thank us later. All right, last segment, Lockdown Cavs. Evan, here, true or false? Kevin Love, if the thumb is right, can still help a team that he goes to next, whether it's Miami, Milwaukee, Phoenix, wherever. Kevin Love, if he's healthy, could help it.
True.
I agree.
Depending on the point guard play, of course.
Yeah, I think all of the fits would be pretty covered for him.
Yep.
The Heat being interested is the one. I don't totally get that.
I do. The Heat.
They just need something.
They need something at the 4. They also need shooting, which Kevin Love in theory gives you both of those things.
Yeah, I think like otherwise, like I don't like totally love that for him fully. I think it's not a bad one if he's just maybe looking to get minutes, and like that could be like an interesting like place to go, and if you believe in that culture and stuff. But that could be weird too, because again, you could get him in the playoffs if you're Cleveland, and just can you imagine like the Kevin Love is playing for the Miami Heat. Like that could be like, because I don't think Miami plays in Cleveland again the rest of the year. I don't think so. I'm gonna double check, but
I don't believe so either.
Milwaukee he would come back between now and the playoffs as well. Like there's just like some correct. Okay.
They're done in Cleveland, so
well he could play them again at least, and then they play in the playoffs. Like the Heat one would be the weirdest one. I think the fit I like the most for him would be Milwaukee.
In terms of Eastern teams,
he's maybe not going to play there, but
I like Miami more just because I think there was a clear path for him playing there. But the sicko answer for me, just like in general, I really like his fit with the Lakers or the Warriors. Like the Lakers, they traded Thomas Bryant to make some moves at the deadline. They could use a bigger body just to like obviously not handle Jokic, but if they sneak into the playoffs, at least have somebody.
I mean, he's
like Anthony Davis.
I mean, no, if you put Kevin Love on Jokic in a playoff series, you're surrendering. You're surrendering. I love Kevin Love, but you're getting smoked if you put Kevin Love on him.
Or the sicko answer for me is just the Warriors because they're pretty stacked, and then you can just let Kevin Love play with all that spacing and next to Draymond, which would be a pretty interesting fit too. And then Bob Myers can go full circle because he almost traded for Kevin Love before the Cavs did, and I think if he joined Golden State's roster, it would be fun to see him play with Klay Thompson just because they're childhood friends. And 2, that is probably the cleanest path to him winning a championship other than Milwaukee this year. Because then he could really go out in a blaze of glory on his own terms.
I mean, I kind of assume he might play beyond this year unless he just retires. We don't really know that.
we don't know his intentions, but like, hey, if you're able to like sign with the Milwaukee Bucks and win a championship, or sign with the Golden State Warriors and win a championship, with like the Bucks, there's not so much like a clear opportunity for him to play, just because like Bobby Portis plays the same position and he's the sixth man for the Bucks, and then like there's Lopez and Giannis ahead of him as well. So it's not a similar, but a somewhat similar situation in Cleveland. But whereas Golden State, like their system is just predicated on 3-point shooting, and Kevin Love can just sit out there and he's an upgrade over some of the guys that torched the Cavs last time the Warriors were in town.
Curious, the Warriors want to be interesting because like he doesn't totally fit maybe like the read and reactness of Golden State.
That's true,
but he spaces, and like they just need like bodies because that team is not at the current moment.
Well, they're top heavy. The Warriors are.
Yeah, they're top heavy, but like they're also just like they're well below in the standings, which has kind of been like a weird for them. Like they're gonna have a very hard time getting the playoffs if based on where they're at right now, and Curry's hurt, which doesn't help things either. Man, I think Milwaukee would make sense. I don't know how much he plays. Miami's probably the cleanest fit in terms of playing. The Lakers one, I think if he wants to play for something that matters, like don't go to the Lakers right now. The Lakers are not.
I have another sicko answer.
What?
The Minnesota Timberwolves.
God.
He could he pairs okay with Gobert at the moment. Cat's still dealing with that injury, so like they don't have to rush Cat back if Love's able to provide you shooting and he's healthy. And I guess if you're like the sentimental type, it could come full circle for him and he could finish his career with the team he started it with. That would be interesting. Like the Timberwolves in theory makes sense. Like he's going to sign for the vet min with the team. So like, I don't think money's really an issue here. So it's just an intriguing thought exercise because the more teams you mention, you're like, yeah, kind of makes sense. Like the Heat makes sense. The Warriors make sense. The Suns, I mean, if the Suns just want to go absolute sicko mode in terms of just shooting and just offensive firepower, sure, why not? Memphis could be goofy. Like that's the team that technically originally drafted him, but like he could go to the Grizzlies and like that's a pretty easy path to like playing meaningful playoff basketball or just resting under laurels, or go to Miami and grind it out and maybe be a second round exit. Like I don't know. There's a lot of different avenues Kevin Love could pursue. Time he's a free agent.
Miami's the one that offers him, I think.
Yeah.
Minutes. Miami's the one that offers him the cleanest, I think, most obvious path to playing time. Milwaukee, I think, is like maybe my favorite basketball.
No, I agree with you. It's just I just see him getting more DNPs more often than not if he goes to the Bucks. So
I think he could get DNPs in Miami if things don't like work.
Oh yeah, that too.
Like I don't think it's not a lot. It's not a lock he's gonna play. I think anywhere he goes, if he doesn't shoot well, it's done. Like if his hand isn't right and he's not making threes, then this is like a moot point.
Oh, exactly. And then I go back to the Suns thing again because we're like just talking about it at this point. Like the Suns have Ayton, obviously, like Kevin Durant / Torrey Craig with the starting four, but like behind them they have Bismack Biyombo, Jock Landale, like TJ Warren's there, Darius Baisley. It was a trade from Oklahoma City to Phoenix. Like Kevin Love could carve out some minutes as like the 7th or 8th man in terms of like that front court rotation for Phoenix too. Like that would be an interesting option and would kind of make some sense for him.
Yeah, I wonder, Landale's kind of like somewhat similar to him. I wonder if they think they need like another wing, if they're going to find one. Interesting times ahead, Evan. Interesting times ahead. I hope Kevin Love gets what he wants. I'm curious to see what Bickerstaff and the players, and I'm curious to see what he says about it. The Kevin Love, the first snippets of an interview we see from him in his new city, I will be greatly paying attention to. There's just like a lot of questions I would have.
He could go full circle on that podcast appearance, which had terrible optics, and go play with Damian Lillard in his hometown Portland Trail Blazers. He could play off. I mean, he could, in theory, play off the bench for most of these teams we mentioned. But there's also clear guys that have been there already that have like an established pecking order. Like you just can't like pick up Kevin Love and drop him into a team's rotation. Like you have to ease him in and figure out does he or does he not? Is he healthy or does he not fit? at the end
It's
of the
just
day.
a health question. Like I think like he's gonna fit because he's just gonna shoot, and it's just can you cover for him defensively, and it can and is the weird month he had an injury aberration, or was it something different? And if it's something different, then you're in like a trickier place. Is where we end up. Let's end there though, Evan.
Let us know in the comments what you think. Shouts to Kevin Love for ruining my Shrek Plant themed episode. So it's not ogre, as they would say, though.
We're never doing that. Never doing that. Maybe on your 40th.
Brother, if I'm hosting Locked On Cavs 10 years from now,
then we've made $1 bajillion.
We already have made $1 bajillion. It's just offshore. Anyways, Jake, cut to the exit.
All right, that's going to be it. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. This episode was produced by Jake Stevens. Now, for your second listen, check out Game to Game NBA, every moment, every top performance, and every single result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across NBA with local analysis, only Locked On deliver. We'll be back on Monday with more Kevin Love and All-Star Weekend chatter. Until then, that's Evan. Be well.